Holy, holy, holy. That's what the Bible describes Jesus as, right? Earlier this week I was reading on the disciples and their story on how they're in the sea with raging waves. The Bible says raging waves. Kind of reminds me the hymn that talks about, I think the words are, "Master, the tempest is raging," and then if I fast forward a bit, they say, "Careth not that we perish." I always find it funny, but so the disciples here are facing a very severe storm from what the Bible is telling us, and they go in the boat where Jesus was sleeping while this was happening, and they shake him up and they wake him up and they say, "Hey, we are in a severe situation, and if you do not do something, this situation is giving non-survival. It's giving death." So Jesus woke up and he looked at the situation, analyzed it, and then he issued a command to the sea, and he said, "Peace, be still." To the sea and the wind, I might say. And he said, "Peace, be still." And everything just calmed down. Now, what drew me to this story is the response of the disciples when Jesus rescued them from their peril. The disciples were like, I would expect them to be like, "Yay, we're saved. Oh, you're such a hero, man. You should sign up for the Avengers or something." But the disciples here, the Bible says they were afraid. They were afraid. It's very interesting. And another part I want to talk about a bit is in the Bible when Peter and Jesus. So Peter and some of his friends had gone out fishing, and they had an awful time at the sea. No fish whatsoever. And Jesus comes and tells Peter, "Hey, how's it going?" And Peter says, "We've had a bad day. We've got no fish." And Jesus tells Peter, "Hey, why don't you go out again and put the net on this side of the boat?" And Peter, I want to say reluctantly, but Peter did it. Peter did it, and the boat was filled so much that they had to call another boat, and even that boat was filled with fish. Now the reaction here, Peter's reaction here is what's important. After all this has happened, instead of Peter giving the normal thing, which is, "Oh my goodness, we should do this every day. We can meet up, link up, go to the sea and just do this and make money." Instead of Peter vouching out a business idea here, Peter says to Jesus, "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man." For I am a sinful man. And I read that and I was like, wow. What did Peter see? What did Peter feel at that moment that he's telling Jesus, "Depart from me, for I am an evil man"? Well, I found it. Peter saw a dimension of Jesus that we rarely encounter, and that's Jesus' holiness. I don't want to say rarely, but we do not give reverence to it or attention to it. It's Christ's holiness. And Peter and the disciples encountered holiness. This is holiness that has power to repel sin, power to make evildoers uncomfortable in your presence. Have you ever had that experience whereby, there are just some people when they come, or like when they're just around, like most of the people in that area are like, I just want to leave. Like there's an uncomfortability that non-Christians have said they have when they have a Christian friend around, especially a Christian friend who practices Christianity vehemently, like very, very to the core, as Jesus wants it to be done. There's an uncomfortability with it. Now that uncomfortability doesn't occur or is not granted by the fact that the Christian by themselves is holy, but it's granted by the fact that the Christian represents one who is, and that one who is Christ. Now, coming into the Christian fold, this holiness that we experience also makes us as Christians kind of want to get away from Christ. Why, you may ask? Because we are sinners. The Bible says we are sinners, and we know that we are sinners, and we know that we make mistakes. And when we encounter Jesus, he makes those aspects of our life so clear that we're just like, man, you know, I just don't, like, you just go, you know, oh, let me leave, like what Peter was saying, like, depart from me, for I am a sinner. But just the same way Peter told Jesus, and Jesus told Peter, and Jesus actually tells us today, I feel, is you are welcomed. And that's I feel like that's one of the core principles of Christianity, that even though we are weak, even though we make mistakes, even though we fall into stuff and whatnot, Jesus still welcomes us into his holiness. And in fact, he says, be holy just as I am holy. So it's not just welcoming us to entertain in his holiness, but he's welcoming us to partake of his holiness. So my encouragement to you guys is, even when you do feel what I love to call spiritual xenophobia, you know, fear of Jesus just because of how much he makes your mistakes clear, that moment that you feel like departing, that moment that you feel like fleeing from the church just because it has made your mistakes so vivid, Christ welcomes you. Christ welcomes you with open arms, and he says, hey, I am here for you. It's not by our strength, it's not by our might, just like that song says, but it's just by the Spirit of God, and he has sent it.